Hello, welcome to today's lesson. Thank you for joining us, and being here today, and hopefully going to get plenty of useful information out from this lesson today. We are going to be covering things from health, well-being, fitness, and things that we can do with physical activity to actually make progress with our all-round health. Because as we know, health isn't just a standalone thing. There are different components of it. So what we're going to start with today is a little bit of a recap on where we've been so far with health and fitness, and then we're going to move that into what I've got on the board behind me, which is physical activity, and how physical activity actually impacts on our overall health, be it the physical component, be it the mental component, and then lastly we'll be looking at the social component and the fitness component. Okay, and I will be sort of elaborating on the difference between physical and fitness, because you might be thinking that they are fairly similar, which they are, but I will get there probably in the next, I think, half an hour. I think today's lesson will run, so short and punchy, but we will be covering the effect of physical activity on these four areas. And to start with, we are going to, well, first of all, look at, just to remind ourselves of the definitions and the factors which make up these parts, these parts of our health. So by the end, we will know how physical activity is impacting on these components, and you should have a list of things to remember. And then most of us should be able to know how regular physical activity is actually going to play a bigger role. So maybe have some examples, maybe have some suggestions and recommendations for people to go off and then do, to hopefully impact on this all-round health that we have. So to kick it off, I do want to remind you of this definition of health, that it is this complete physical, mental, social and emotional well-being. It's not just the absence of illness. So just because you can get out of bed and you can go to work and you have your meals and you think everything's hunky-dory, that's not health. If you have not necessarily good physique, but if your body is in good condition and your heart and your lungs and your organs are all okay, if you are interacting well with people, if you have a sense of belonging, then we could say that you're on your way to health. But perhaps mentally you're feeling a little bit distressed and anxious and unhappy with how things are currently going, and all of that together, that paints the picture of someone being partially healthy but not completely, because their mental might have been lacking. Their mental component of health wasn't quite up to scratch if they have these depressive, distressed thoughts. So health is all-round combination of physical, emotional, mental and social. And for the purpose of today, we are going to be combining emotional and mental into the same thing of sort of the state of mind and the feelings that we're currently experiencing. So that was health, and then obviously I put on the board behind me fitness, because we are going to be looking at in a little bit more detail about that. So just to remind us, we do have these two different categories. We've got physical components of health. That's more to do with our body's raw abilities, our raw characteristics. So things like muscle strength, things like muscle speed, things about muscle elasticity or flexibility as that comes into. Whereas our skill-related components are more combining these raw components, these physical ones, where we might actually have to engage our brain. So it's psychological and physiological combining. So agility, can you think about controlling your body in a way to change direction without losing that balance? Reaction time, can you interpret the environment stimuli in and quickly turn that into an event inside your head that you can then respond to? So skill related, it's a lot more psychological and physiological, whereas the physical components, we haven't got that relationship. It's a little bit more, what can the body do without the influence of the mind? So, to kick things off, I wanted to talk a little bit about the definition of physical activity, the guidelines that the government have written for it, and then we're going to move into our 4 components which physical activity can benefit. So, physical activity is the contraction of muscles to produce bodily movement by expending energy. We contract muscles, we move our body, and we expend energy. So, for example, right now, I'm standing up, I'm moving around, I have muscles contracting, my body is moving, and I am expending energy. I am currently being physically active. Physical inactivity is, well, the lack of contraction, the lack of movement, the lack of expenditure. And that at the moment is a massive contributor, I think it's 4th or 5th at the moment, in global mortality. Now, sitting on your sofa doesn't kill you, but it can lead to health complications. It can lead to poor cardiovascular or cardiorespiratory condition, and those can then lead to death. So inactivity is a big problem. People are consuming food, but they're not expending the energy that was contained in the food that they ate. There's this term called calorie deficit or negative energy balance. Or if we've got a calorie surplus or a positive energy balance, our weight, or not necessarily weight, because that's not the main thing, because muscle and bone tissue and water comes into that as well, but our fat mass. Fat is basically surplus energy that we've consumed but haven't spent. Physical activity is the expenditure part. So if you do eat a little bit more, then you can increase your expenditure slightly and you can stay in equilibrium, you can stay balanced. But it's this inactivity, so less expenditure and the same or excessive consumption of energy, food, that is leading to the problems associated with overweight, obesity, clinical obesity, morbid obesity. So, physical activity, contracting muscles, moving, expending energy. It does not have to be, I've got these things in red here, it does not have to be sport. It does not have to be competitive. It does not have to be planned. These are all great. Now, these come under physical activity. You could be competitive on a sports team and you plan to play every single weekend. That is being physically active, but so's walking upstairs instead of getting the lift. So's walking to work, not getting the bus or driving. So's parking far away from the shops and walking there rather than driving right up to the doors or getting it delivered. So physical activity is this choice to contract muscles and move in order to expend energy. It doesn't have to be sport, doesn't have to be competitive, doesn't have to be planned. It can be anything as long as we hit those 3 things. I've chosen to stand up and do this today rather than sit down and do this. Even if I was sitting, I'd still be moving, I'd still be physically active, but because I'm standing, there's more contraction of muscles, therefore more bodily movement, and probably more energy expenditure. Hopefully as well, it does allow me to be a little bit more animated, but that's just that's the primary reason. But the secondary reason is, I do have this, this increase in physical activity, and people can do the same. Be it young children, be it families, be it working parents, be it older retired people, everyone can be more physically active if they contract muscles and move their body to expend energy. So what we're going to do is look at some examples of how people can do that, but the impact that this physical activity has on our overall health, our physical, mental, social, and fitness. How does physical activity tie into all of those? Well, before we get there, some guidelines. And we've got two different sets. We've got the first ones, which probably are more applicable to you if you're a student watching this. But 5 to 18 years old, 60 minutes a day. Okay, on average, if you were to work out, every week or every month, average of 60 minutes per day. Now, this doesn't have to be, you going out for an hour's run or going for an hour's swim. It doesn't have to be sport. It doesn't have to be pre-planned or high intense. It can be play. It can be climb or climbing, I should probably say. Playing, climbing, playing tag. I'm not, if you're watching this, you're probably a little bit old for playing it and for playing tag now. But I would probably wager that if you were to compare what you currently do at school during break and lunch times, it's vastly different to what you used to do in as far back as year 7. Was probably still quite active, but then into primary school, far more likely to play, to go on the climbing frames. So we start to see this change in how active people choose to be. As long as these 60 minutes are challenging bones, challenging muscles, then that's okay. And by challenge, I mean a little bit of stress. So right now, I'm not really being that physically active because as I'm standing up, that's not really stressing my muscles and bones. However, if I were to walk upstairs, suddenly that gain in height, that challenges me to work against gravity a little bit more. I have to actually move my muscles through a greater range of motion. I have to contract my muscles to move my body more to expend more energy. So as long as we're challenging our bones and our muscles with weight bearing or speed or strength types of activity, that's golden. That's what we want. And there's also the point there of some skill-orientated activities. Just turn this off. Some skill-related activities. So it could be using a bat and ball, which could be playing in the garden. It doesn't have to be as part of a competitive team. It could be something to do with balance, riding your bike. That's challenging your body. It's challenging you to use your brain to appreciate where you are, to recognise what's happening with your environment, to then make small alterations to your muscles so that you stay on 2 wheels. Adults, a little bit different, so 19 plus. Okay, all the way up to old age. Old age, you get a little bit different, a little bit more sort of manipulated to suit their declining bodies. I know that sounds bad. Bodies decline from, I think it's about 25, 26. I think cells begin to die faster than they repair. But obviously, but add on another 50, 60, 70 years onto that age of 25, then we're definitely in a different situation to what we are at 19. Therefore, guidelines change to suit that. But on the whole, we've got 2 options, or a combination of the 2. 150 minutes of moderate exercise, or I should say activity. This could be doing the dishes. Could be walking to work. Could be taking the stairs, not the lift. It could be getting off the bus 1 or 2 steps earlier and then walking home. It could be carrying the shopping home. It could be going for a jog. It could be playing for a sports team. Doesn't really matter. Moderate activity is defined as a state of breathlessness, or it's difficult to hold a conversation while you're doing it. So if you're a little bit out of breath, that's good. The 75 minutes, okay, so that higher intensity, that applies to, you definitely can't hold a conversation, and you could probably only do it for 30, 40, 50 minutes at a time. We're talking higher intensity. You will probably need rest periods built into those 75 minutes. It's starting to sound a little bit more like sport now. So planned activities. So it could be to choose activities that suit your preferences. It might be that you like playing racket sports. It might be that you like going to the gym, lifting weights, using the treadmills, CrossFit, trampolining. Those slightly more defined or organised events, but by doing that you will achieve that harder or higher intensity. It's quite difficult to walk to work casually. Yes, that might be moderate activity, but unless you're power walking 70, 80, 90% of your maximum speed, you're probably not going to be including 75 minutes of hard intensity. So typically people choose to combine these. So there might be 100, 120 minutes of moderate, 20, 30 minutes of hard activity per week. Doesn't really matter as long as we're hitting roughly those numbers there. So we'll start off with some physical benefits. First one. So physical benefits. I've got some pictures down here where we've got a couple of people doing some flexibility or some yoga or some Pilates, and we've got a chap running, looks like up a hill. But straight away we're starting to see some movement. We're starting to see some strange body positions, outside of just standing or sitting. And this is stressing the body. As soon as we go beyond bog standard, by bog standard or normal or resting levels, another fancy word is homeostasis. Homeostasis, the state of normality in your body. As soon as we go above that, we challenge our body, it's stressing it. Now in the context of activity, this is good stress. And we're not talking about exams are in two days' time and you're panicking. We're not talking about that sort of stress. We're talking about levels of demands being placed on your body which challenge it to get better. I would argue that you studying this video, for example, or learning something new in class, that's a good level of stress because it's going to benefit you. It might be a little bit challenging, it might be tough to grapple with, it might be uncomfortable to be out of a zone that you're being told or doing something different to what you're aware of at the moment. But it's an opportunity for growth, to learn, to develop. And the same thing goes with our body, physically. If we put ourselves into new situations and challenge it, the bodily systems experience this stress, experience this out of comfort zone level of operation. And if you put them in that state regularly enough, gradually they'll just get better. They'll get better so that when they are in that situation again in the future, it's more comfortable for them. Just like you studying and learning, eventually, after 1 or 2 or 3 lessons on a particular topic, you'll understand it. You'll gain an awareness for it. So then if you sat that lesson for the 4th, 5th or 6th time, well, it'll be easy because you get it. You've grown. Your mind has expanded to be able to deal with the problems that lesson presented. Just like if you went and sat back in a year 4 or year 5 maths lesson, I'd like to think that everyone, from the ages of 14 up to 17, I'd like to think that anyone in that bracket could easily pass any year 3 or year 4 lesson. Because you've grown and developed, just like our body can. So if we stress our muscles or our bones with physical activity, and we put them out of their comfort zone with what they're normally dealing with, they'll get better. They'll increase in quality so that in the future they can deal with it. So we have five physical benefits. And if you are taking notes, or if you do have the activity sheet for this, which is available through the petutor.com and the portals that we run, but if you have got note-taking resources next to you, this is what you need down. And by the end of this, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 different versions of this diagram. So the physical benefits: more effective systems, cardiovascular, skeletal, muscular, respiratory. All of our bodily systems improve. We get better cardiac health. Our heart can function better. If we have to move, there's a demand being created in our muscles for energy. How do we access energy from food? Well, we send oxygen there. How do we send oxygen there? Blood. How do we send more blood somewhere? with our heart. So the heart becomes stronger. It becomes more efficient. It becomes better at sending blood all around the body. Second picture there, our lungs. And we avoid this build-up of sort of fluids or toxins or dead cells. If we're regularly using our lungs and stressing them, then the blood flow to them is better, and they're going to be more equipped to repair and stay in good condition because they're getting flooded with nutritious blood more regularly. The muscles around them, which help pull and move and contract and shape our rib cage so that we can breathe, those muscles will get better. It's called hypertrophy. Little picture here of a little cartoon of a slimmer chap and a bigger chap. The picture on the right hand side there, larger fat mass. Why? Because there was a surplus of energy being stored in his body. And then here, gentleman walking up the stairs as if going to work instead of getting the lift. And if we can do all of this, we get these benefits on the diagram here. We can avoid obesity. We can avoid this storage of body fat. We can improve our immune system. Like I said there, our lungs and our heart, they benefit from an influx of blood supply. Well, as soon as we start to do that, we allow our red blood cells and our white blood cells to improve in their rate of repair. So suddenly our immune system is better equipped to fight off any foreign bodies. And if we do all of this, better heart, better respiratory systems, better leg quality or leg muscle quality if we're taking the stairs every day, if we haven't got loads of body fat hanging around, everyday tasks, everyday physical tasks are going to become so much easier because there's no fat in the way. Or our heart and lungs find it easier to supply our working muscles with lots of blood because it's easy in comparison to the activity that we normally stress ourselves with. So 5 things: more effective systems, reduced risk of illness, we can avoid obesity, we can improve our heart function, and we get better at the everyday tasks. So 5 physical benefits. Next, we have social benefits. Now, the social component of our health is to do with our relationships with other people. So how we relate to one another, how we can talk to them. Do we have a sense of belonging? Do we feel comfortable in the groups that we spend time with? So a couple of pictures here. We've got PE on the right hand side, and we've got some group classes that people, so adults, opt to go and pursue. Younger people, teenagers, they might pursue sports in school, after school. They might play clubs, or they might represent a number of teams. They've got a number of different social groups that they get to spend time with. So, yes, at the start, where I said physical activity doesn't have to be sports and clubs, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to actually go out there and meet people, to work together, to grapple with challenges, to problem solve, and to then hopefully progress. So some social benefits. We've got 4 for this one. So again, if you do have pen and paper, or if you do have the activity sheets from the portal, then get these down. We've got opportunities to make friends. If we pursue physical activity with people, in a social environment where we are interacting with people. The more we interact with someone, the better we know them, the better we trust them, the more they get to know us as well. Then we begin to build up this rapport. We learn to cooperate with people. In the middle there with the Ireland rugby team, there's a lot of people on the pitch at once. 15 on your team, 15 on the others. To actually get this effective sporting situation, you're going to have to not make sacrifices, but it's a balancing act. You have strengths, your teammates have strengths, you both have weaknesses. You need to be able to work together to maximise your performance.
So the best person does the right thing at the right time, and you need to make the decisions in order to achieve that. In order to make those decisions, you need to know the person. So we learn about people, and we develop skills to use that understanding of people to better inform how we work with them. We've got leadership rolled up in that as well. If you're the captain or you're the manager, or if you're the more experienced performer, let's say you and a friend go to the gym you've been going for a year and your friend decides to join you for the first time. Physical activity, it's planned, yes, but you're the more knowledgeable other. So you now need to fill this role of mentor, coach, teacher. You now need to develop that skill set, or maybe not develop it, but draw on the skills that you currently have. And in doing that, you develop this confidence to talk to people, to teach people, to share your knowledge with others. Now, if you didn't go to the gym with a partner, then you wouldn't be exposed to that. So physical activity, it's not a guaranteed socially benefiting thing to do, because walking up the stairs instead of getting a lift, well, doesn't really get you talking to anyone unless there's other people walking up the stairs. But it gives you it's an opportunity. It opens the door to actually, if I want to be active, I want to be with people because it's more fun. So let's go and join a group. Could be a group class, could be a team. The reason I put that top picture in there of the younger children in a PE lesson, because PE is compulsory. And especially at younger ages, at formative ages, it's so important to learn these interactive skills, because, as an adult, imagine if you couldn't share, or imagine if you couldn't work hard for the good of a team, or to recognise when you might not be the best at something but someone else is. If you don't develop those social skills, adult life is going to be a little bit difficult. So physical activity within PE, within these group settings, very beneficial. Mental. Oh, sorry, circled. So, mental benefits. 3 or 2 down, 2 to go. Mental benefits. Now, I've got a couple of pictures here. So before I flash up the writing, I just sort of want to talk through these first. Because mentally, yes, we've wrapped up emotional into this as well, but it's to do with our outlook, our emotions, our feelings, our sense of satisfaction, pride, progress. And these pictures here, you've got three vastly different emotions going on. Obviously, Mo Farah there, elation, pure happiness that he's just won a race and he's achieved something massive which he might have sacrificed and worked so hard for. That, to experience that, to give your mind and being the opportunity to experience that level of elation, it's quite powerful. The middle picture, sort of an everyday meditation or yoga or Pilates course or lesson, can be quite calming. It can bring you back to the present day. It can help you, force out things that you try and forget, or you forget about the anxieties and just focus on being calm. You can train yourself to recognise and deal with emotions. Just like in the third picture, obviously something shocking has just happened, something hopefully good for his team. But again, it's an emotion which you don't get in the day-to-day. Now, I know the top and bottom on there are sports, but you can achieve these in any sort of active pursuits. So our whole day can be determined by our state of mind. You might wake up one day, on the wrong side of the bed. Didn't get enough sleep. You're stressing about something which is happening later in the week. Bad weather. Not feeling great about your current goals or progress towards something. Well, that's going to affect quite a few things. So if you can be active, well, first off, there's a physical response. You release serotonin. You release a feel-good hormone into your brain, and it spreads, and you start to feel better. So just by moving, we can force the production of a hormone that makes us feel good. That's a pretty big thing to aim for, or big reason why we should be active. But it goes beyond that, because if we have set goals and we gradually progress and we do achieve them, look at Mo Farah's face there. If he has set regimental goals and he's active in the way that he needs to be active, and he improves and he gets better and he gets to a level of quality that he can be the best in the world at something, that's going to make him feel good. So we have these feelings of accomplishment if we are physically active. We might have pride about our appearance. If we have a goal in mind of how comfortable it feels to wear a certain size shirt, or to jump on a scale and see a particular number. I know we shouldn't really associate weight and shape with happiness, but a lot of people do. And physical activity can be the answer, the solution to achieving these goals and making us feel good. So again, jot these down if you have the tools and the resource sheets available. 4 mental benefits. We get rid of stress. How do we get rid of stress? Well, by being active, we actually increase stress levels in our body. So when we go back to resting levels, our body has to get rid of the stress, or cortisol as it's also known as. Serotonin, feel-good hormone, the chemical in our body. Cortisol, the stressful hormone, or the chemical inside of our body. So when we exercise, we've got more cortisol in our body to get our heart rate going, to get our muscle tensions going, to get our temperature up, to get us thinking faster. So then when we stop exercising, our body has to get rid of cortisol. So our body is training, it's developing this ability to actually lower stress. So we exercise, or we're active, we increase stress intentionally, our body adapts and gets rid of it. And over time, our body gets better at dealing with any sort of stress. We get better control of our emotions. We are more regularly exposed to happiness, hard work, determination, failure. If we're exposed to emotions and we experience them in visceral and very potent situations, that Mo Farah image, that's a powerful emotion. So to be exposed to that, to be able to deal with that, it's going to be a lot easier to manage other emotions. And I've put down there as well satisfaction. This positive feeling about working towards something that you've set, a goal in mind. So 4 mental benefits. Jot them down if you can. So last one, fitness. And this will bring together our sort of all-round development, or all-round impact of physical activity. Fitness benefits. Now we mentioned earlier, we have the physical components, we have the skill-related components. Now physical activity it can be anything. It's very general. Contracting muscles, moving, expending energy. But if we do choose to pursue a certain sport, pastime, recreational activity, if we choose something because we enjoy it and we've set goals in it, then what we can do is link that in with the rest of our physical activity. So if, for example, someone is a footballer or netball player, someone who plays for 60, 70, 80, 90 minutes at a time. They might have a break or two in between in intervals or substitutions, but sustained periods of time where they're active. This is sounding like endurance, aerobic endurance, muscular endurance. The ability to repeat contractions or to supply your body with oxygen for sustained periods of time without getting tired. Well, if that's our overall goal, and that's what we're currently getting better at, and it brings us satisfaction, it brings us pride, It allows us to interact with others. It allows us, mental improvements. It allows us the physical and the social improvements. Well, surely it makes sense to target the components of fitness required for that physical activity pastime. So, the person who plays football at the weekend could choose cycling to work, walking to work, going for a run in the evenings, swimming for half an hour at a time. Because it's going to help their more specific physical activity choice. So physical activity gives us the opportunity to build in choices which we handpick. We handpick the types of physical activity that we do, so that what we actually end up doing, 60 minutes a day on average for teenagers, or 150 minutes a week for the adults, but we end up with a selected combination of physical activity. And it's that selection which develops certain components of fitness, which we then use in our championed one, in our sport, our team sport, or our fitness goal in the gym. So we can select the components of fitness that we need for our chosen activity, or sport, or pastime. We look at the components of fitness we need, and then we use every piece of physical activity to benefit those components of fitness. And if we do that, we'll see gains. Not gains as in like the fitness term, gains in the gym, but it is applicable. But gains in skill quality, in time quality. Can we run further in a shorter amount of time? Can we lift more weight? Can we move faster? Can we make quicker decisions? So we can start to use physical activity to refine components of fitness to improve sporting application. But if we are doing all of that, or I should say, and if we are doing all of that, and we're seeing this choice of physical activities aiding our sport, well, our day-to-day living is going to get so much easier. If we think about that question we ask ourselves when fitness comes up, well, fit for what? Was the ability to meet the demands of your environment. Well, if you're training to get better in a stressful environment, and by stressful I mean physically stressful, if you're training to get better in that, you automatically raise the level of your overall fitness, so that when you go back to sitting at a desk, walking to work, washing the dishes, carrying the shopping, suddenly that will seem so much easier compared to the difficult stuff that you're doing in training. So day-to-day living becomes easier, it becomes more comfortable, it becomes less stressful. Rather than not having that sporting goal and not using activity to get yourself better at that and increasing your quality of fitness. If you didn't do that and you kept it at a moderately average level, well, your day-to-day living is going to feel like that level as well. So you're always going to feel in this state of uncomfort. Where you're heaving and huffing to get out of the sofa to carry something which shouldn't really put you out of breath. So, physical activity, we can use it as the opportunity to refine certain components of fitness to benefit us in a sport, which has the knock-on effect of making everything else in our day-to-day life easier. We raise our level of generic fitness. So, to summarise, we have looked at physical activity and its impact on health. Okay, our overall health and well-being. We've got this definition: health is the complete physical, mental, emotional, social well-being. We can improve our fitness as well. So this session, I think that was close to bang on 30. I think it might be 35 perhaps. But yeah, two things that we've looked at today. We have revised the definitions of health and the components of fitness as well. But yeah, the main, the meat and bones of the lesson, the nuts and bolts. Can you actually link physical activity to promoting health? Have we got examples of what we could do? Have we got the list of benefits in each area? Yes, we do have those now. So I hope you found that useful. This has been the impact of physical activity on health and well-being. If you are studying this part of the group classes, then obviously move on to the next one, or you can use the worksheets linked to this to make your notes, to answer some questions, to really solidify that learning. If you do want to know more about how you can access these, then head over to the email just there. It's not the email, the website, thepetutor.com, where we've got loads of resources just like these, PowerPoint lessons for teachers and students, with group classes, one-to-ones, all sorts going on. Head over to thepetutor.com, like, subscribe, comment on this video if that is applicable. Hope to see you again soon, or hopefully next time.